Yeah. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of Unscripted. Before you tap into this week's episode, I want to give a little backstory behind my guest. My guest this week is Mr. Edwin Jackson. Edwin Jackson is a pitcher for the Arizona Diamondbacks, but his story originated from Germany. Moving around as a Navy kid, he found his love for baseball when he came to America. Along the way, he got better, developed his skills, and Edwin was drafted to the LA Dodgers in 2003 when he was 17 years old. 17 years old. That's crazy. He's still playing today. Longevity. When you think of Edwin, you probably think of longevity. He's had a crazy career, and he's still going, still moving, still kicking, still grooving today. And in this conversation, you will see his love of the game is so strong and why he prides himself on being a true professional of the game. In 2009, 2010, 2011, you want to talk about a three-peat. In 2009, he became an all-star for the first time. 2010, he threw a no-hitter. And in 2011, he capped it off by winning a World Series title. That's crazy. In this episode, you are going to hear, some stories you may not have heard about him before. We talk about some of his favorite competitors. We talk about that time he was pitching against Barry Bonds, and we talk about some stories that'll probably have you saying, did that really happen? I've had the privilege of meeting Edwin and getting to know Edwin, for a year straight when I used to train out in Phoenix. I used to see him all the time, and he was always gracious with his time. Nothing but information, nothing but love. We would talk about sports, we would talk about finances, we would talk about just everyday life and how to be a professional athlete. And when I think about Edwin Jackson, EJ, the journeyman, professionalism really comes out and really sticks true. So without further ado, enjoy this week's episode of Unscripted. Don't forget to head on to Apple Podcasts, it's called now, and leave a rating or review of the podcast. Share it with a friend. Make sure you subscribe to the podcast audio, and make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel. Come on, man. Stay locked in. We got so much more to go. So much more great conversations and positive energy coming. Again, enjoy the episode. Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome to another episode of the Unscripted podcast, man. I got a special guest in the house, man. And before we even start, I gotta say, this man showed me love from the jump. You know what I'm saying? He always put me on game. He always showed me the in and outs, and he always kept it real with me when it came to, how the business aspect of sports world, man. I got today with me the homie Edwin Jackson. What's going on, man?
My boy, how you living, man? It's a pleasure to be on here with you, man.
Oh, man, I always enjoy chopping up with you, man. I see, it's quarantine season, the fro coming out, the beard coming in.
Struggle beard, but hey, it's tough times. We got to keep a tough look for the tough times, man. And when everything clear up, then I'm going to go and clear up with it.
Man, you got an interesting story, bro. Like, I know a bit about you, but the stuff that I want to discuss in person right now, man, is, I want to talk about what growing up was like for you. And I want to start there because from what I understand, you moved around quite a bit.
Right. Growing up a military brat, born in Germany, born in New Orleans, Germany. Young age, came back to the States, Fort Polk, Louisiana. Then I went back to Germany for a second stint. And I was in a remote site called Kaiser. You probably can barely find it on the map, man. I'm in a little military community mixed in with the Turkish community, mixed in with the German community. So it's like a little spaghetti triangle right there. So I had a chance to grow up with a lot of diversity. I got a chance to grow up seeing a lot of different things. Pretty much the life on an airplane, man. That's all I know. Being able to pack up a bag and move, make new friends, having to be personable, and not being able to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, in a lot of different situations.
Man, so let me ask you this, man. How did you find stability? because growing up in a military home, you got to move at the drop of a hat, So how did you find stability in that alone?
I figured for me, man, it came within the family. We had a very strong, tight knit family, so that always made the transitions easier when we move into different places. And we grew up a military family, but it wasn't very strict. My mom cooked dinner. She'd call everybody, "Hey, the food ready. Y'all better come eat. It's getting cold." We weren't super strict, but the rules that she did apply that we had to abide by. She didn't play with them as far as manners and saying yes, ma'am, no, ma'am. Sometimes we had to, sometimes we didn't. But when we talked to other people, we had to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am. She didn't really care what we did at home, but once we step outside the confines of our house, she wanted us to be right on top of everything, So in the eyes of everyone else, we were super respectable. But I think a lot of the stability came from just being able to adapt to situations. That was real big for me, being able to go to a different situation, being a new person, sit back and chill for a little bit and observe the scenery and see what's going on, and being able to, kind of maneuver my way around and dibble and dabble without necessarily being obnoxious, but not being a hermit at the same time. So, just kind of being in between an introvert and extrovert, kind of finding a happy medium wherever I was.
Man, so then, you finally came and got some, like solid ground in America. What did that look like for you, man? Like, were you nervous as the fact, like, man, should I really put my foot down here? Or are we going to move again in a couple weeks, a couple months? Like, what was that like for you?
Oh man, as a kid, you kind of grabbing life by the horns and just riding with it, man. We came back from Germany in 1991 to Fort Benning, and that's pretty much where I spent a majority of my childhood. So when people ask me where I'm from, I claim Columbus, Georgia, just because that's where I was from. That's where I've been the longest.
Yeah.
1991 until 2001, I was in Columbus. So that's pretty much where a lot of my upbringing is in my early childhood comes from and growing up. But I mean, the community that I was in, it was a mix of everything. So I think that's the benefit that I had of being a military brat. I didn't see all of one culture. It wasn't all black. It wasn't all white. It wasn't all this. It was a melting pot of everything. So I got a chance to experience a lot as a young kid and see a lot of different cultures. I was just talking to one of my boys the other day. He was Puerto Rican, or he's Puerto Rican. I know every time his mom used to cook chuletas and rice and beans, I'm like, "Mom, I ain't eating over here. I'm going across the street to eat."
Yeah.
So I got a chance to experience different foods, and saying I think it helped me for who I am today, man. Just being able to absorb a lot of different cultures and being comfortable with, being in a place where I'm a little different. I'm the only one that's not necessarily from wherever I am.
It's crazy, man, because, when you think about the foundation of where you started, bro, like it really puts things into perspective about kind of how your professional career kind of went and how it's going right now, right? But
Right.
man, I want to start like, how did you get involved in baseball? And when you got involved in it, like, did you like it right away? Because I'm gonna keep it a buck, man. When I got introduced to track and field, bro, I didn't want to run, bro. That's like every sport's punishment. So I was like, man, I'm not trying to do this. But what
Right.
what was that like for you? Like how did you, like, did something inside say, man, this might be a pathway for me?
You know what? That's interesting, man, because when I came back from Germany, playing at the YMCA, where we call it the youth center,
Yeah.
on the base, football was the first sport that I played coming from overseas. When I came back, it was in football season. So football was the first organized sport that I was introduced to. I mean, we would play backyard sports, so we played a little bit of everything. But in Germany, it was a lot of soccer. It was a lot of different sports than American sports. So when I came here, football season was in. So I was like, all right, cool. I'm gonna play football.
Mhm.
Football came, then basketball came, then baseball. So baseball was the last. Baseball was the last sport that I played coming up, organized sports, and I pretty much played all of them until 8th grade. And then I went to football and baseball. And then 9th grade, I went to football and baseball. Then 10th grade, it went strictly baseball and how it happened, I really don't know, because a lot of people thought I was going to play basketball, man. I come from a sports family. My dad played basketball and baseball. He's pretty good at both, but I
Yeah.
know a lot of the hooting and hollering out here was from him in basketball. Like, man, your pops was cold in basketball and whatnot. My mom played softball. But so both parents athletic, so we had a lot of athleticism and a lot of competition within the house.
Yeah.
And somehow it went to baseball, man. I'm not sure exactly how it went. I mean, I feel like I was decent at all the sports I played. And somehow I stood out in baseball. Stood out, excelling. So I stayed with it. I wasn't very big for football. I mean, I was 5'10", $185 in
Yeah.
high school.
Yeah.
I feel like, so I wasn't super big, but baseball. I started leaning towards baseball, and I wrote it. And I mean, I didn't know I was getting drafted. I had no clue. I was just trying to get to school, man. Honestly, I was just trying to go somewhere where I could get college paid for, just to get an education. And ended up happening. But two of my friends, Nick Long and Steven Register, they were getting scouted, so they were heavily scouted, and I ended up making myself stick out for them. From scouts coming to look at them, and I kind of made myself shine and allow myself to be seen.
Man, so when you say you allowed yourself to be seen, obviously, this didn't just happen by fluke. You know what I'm saying? Like, there must have been something that you knew was like, man, I may have something here. Was there a point in your high school career, maybe in the 12th grade, where you were just like, man, like, I'm kind of nice here. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might be able to do something here. Was there a moment that trickled down for you? Was it when people were saying, man, EJ, hey, you could do this, you could do that? What was that moment for you?
You know what? That's funny, man, because, I mean, coming up, I was always on the all-star teams. I feel like younger, I was always wanted on the teams. And actually, for high school, I didn't start until my senior year. So I
Yeah.
came up with shortstop. Then my 11th grade year, I bounced around. I go from short to third to second. So I was pretty much a utility player. Like, coach, put me wherever you want to put me. I just want to play. And my 12th grade year, I moved to the outfield predominantly, and I was in center field. And I mean, I've always had the talent. I've always had the skills. All I needed was the chance, So it wasn't one of those situations where people were like, "Oh, he just came out of nowhere." But I just had 12th grade allowed me to be able to be comfortable, not knowing that my job is secure, and it allowed me to excel. And I mean, that's where all the accolades came: all state, all by city, player of the year. I think I led the city in home runs that year. Helped lead us to a championship for our school. So that year, man, it was like you said, it wasn't by fluke, it wasn't by accident, it was meant to be. And I had that 1 year to blossom, and I bloomed.
Man, so you were talking about you just want to get to college, and I relate to that a lot because, man, I just want to get my school paid for. I didn't care what it looked like. I don't care. I just knew I needed to get this done.
Facts.
But you didn't, some things happen, and you didn't take that route.
Right.
So, because if like what changed your mindset in that aspect of it?
Man, that was an interesting one, because I weighed on it. Like I said, I didn't even know I was getting drafted. Once I committed to a school,
Where'd you commit to?
I was going to UAB,
Okay.
University of Alabama at Birmingham. It's in Birmingham, and I wanted to do pre-med. So
Okay.
that kind of helped in my choice, man. Now, had I went to school, it probably would have changed, because I don't know if I would have been able to do that major. I don't know if I would have been able to major pre-med and then also play sports at the same time, but I don't know where I would have been able to juggle that at. But I had no clubs getting drafted, so I was going to play basketball, and my mom answered the phone. She's like, "You got a call?" I was like, "Well, tell him I'll call her back. I'm about to go hoop." She's like, "Nah, you got to take this call. It's somebody from the Dodgers." I'm like, "From the Dodgers?" I'm like, "All right." So I get on the phone, and Lon Joyce, a scout who signed me, he's on the phone, and he's like, "Yeah, how you doing, Edwin Jackson? This is Lon Joyce with the Dodgers. Just wanted to let you know you've been selected in the 6th round, by the Dodgers." And I'm like, "Oh, man." I'm like, "All right." But I'm still in my mind. It still ain't really set in yet. You know, I hear the call just because it was unexpected. You know, I feel like when you expected it, the tension is building up. You're like, okay, it's just a matter of who will win. With it being so unexpectedly, I didn't really have time to be shocked, you know, or anything. So I'm pretty even keel. So I talked to him and weighed my decisions. And I was like, man, listen, I can go to college. I can get an education. Or I can get a jump start on a career. There's been a dream and still have my education paid for. If baseball don't work out, then I can still go back to school. So I was like, I pondered on it for a while, and my parents pretty much was like, hey, you have to make this decision. You know, this is a decision you have to make. So I was like, man, I'm going. I'm going for it. You know, I'm going for it. I'm going to go start my dream. And, man, it's paid off 18 seasons later, 20 years later. Here I am, you know, still trucking.
Man, it's crazy you said all that, man, because, you know, when I go and I talk to kids, different sports teams, sports schools, man, you know, one of the questions they always ask is, you know, how do you weigh those decisions? And, you know, do you listen to your own voice? Because you're hearing from so many different things. But it seemed like, you know, your family was so tight knit. They said, look, you got to make your decision yourself. They didn't put any pressure on you because you was like 18, 17, 18, 19 years old?
17.
Man, that's crazy, man. So in 2001, you got drafted to LA. What was the first year like for you, man? Like, you know, what I always hear stories about the rookie comes in and, you know, if you're a vet, you don't want a rookie to take your spot, you know what I'm saying? But there are some that look out for you. Like, what was that first year kind of like for you as far as, you know, getting to the big leagues? You know, now your routine has changed. And now, man, you know, there's a big difference. I tell people all the time, there's a big difference between, you know, being an athlete and being a professional athlete. You know what I'm saying? So what did that first year kind of look like for you?
The first year for me, I think the biggest difference was the strength and conditioning. I mean, because in high school, we go down, I mean, we have PE, weightlifting class, and we playing around. We kids, you know what I'm saying? We have 3 reps. We might do 1.5 reps when the coach ain't looking. We have a set of 10. We might do a set of 6 or 7, and we get up off there, you know what I'm saying? Because, I mean, nobody really paid attention to the body. You know, we didn't really care about the body. We just wanted to go play. And that first year going into pro ball, just listening to the strength and conditioning coach and the programs that they have you on, I'm like, all right, like, okay, cool. Like, so this is the start to manhood, you know, in a professional sport. Because I mean, high school, you kids. When you get professional, you starting the evolution of becoming a man in whatever sport you're playing, especially in it's the minor league. So you have 200 people down, I feel like, where everybody was the best of the best, you know. So it's like you're not coming in with an ego. I'm looking at dudes that got more money than me. I'm looking at dudes first rounders, and I'm like, all right, cool. So everybody's the best of the best. Let's go. You know, so I've never been afraid of a challenge. So I think I came back home. I grew about an inch, and I probably put on about 10 pounds. So when I came back home, everybody like, man, what you been on? You know what I'm saying? It's just goes to show you about the body and taking care of the body, how big it was, the stuff we never paid attention to, how important and how vital it is to, you know, staying healthy and staying on the field.
Man, because you play a whole lot of games, bro. And I remember you and I were talking one time in Phoenix, and I was just like, man, like how do you play 160 plus games plus playoffs? I was like, what? That must have been different in the beginning too, because in high school you're not paying that much games, man. Like, what was the mental aspect of that look like for you?
The crazy thing is, man, like you get drafted, you might go to the minor leagues. I mean, most systems have 5 to 7 levels of baseball, maybe before you get to the big leagues.
Oh wow, I didn't know that.
It's a grind. Now I feel like nowadays it's a lot faster than it was when I was coming up. But now you see guys coming up a lot faster. But like when I came up, 2003, when I made my debut, I was 19. I just had turned 20 that day.
Jeez, so, man.
There's dudes on the team who where the average age is probably 28, 29. You know, I'm coming on the team. Dudes on the team like, man, I got kids your age. you got dudes with 10 years. We probably have 7, 8 people with 10 years on the team. But I'm
Yeah.
coming in, I'm just a kid, I'm head down, speak when spoken to, try not to bring too much attention on myself. But the transition from the minor leagues to the major leagues is night and day, man. I mean, minor leagues, you may have 60-something games, 70-something games to 80-something games. And then you go to a major league season where it's 162, where people trying to identify how their bodies are breaking down. You're trying to feel it, but it's a grind, man. It's a grind. The rest, the eating right, the preparation of keeping your body right, a lot of things that as a kid we don't pay attention to. That's imperative once you get to the next stage. It's vital that you pay attention to your body, and no one is going to understand your body like you do. So it's just about being able to understand your body and listen to what your body is telling you. If you have workout that day, okay, maybe take it back, and the next day I can ramp it up and make up what I didn't do yesterday and still be able to get all my workload in for the week. And just half of it is just being blessed, man. I mean, I don't feel like I work any harder than anyone. I don't feel like I'm in the gym trying to outwork anyone, but obviously I do my work. I work hard.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like it's a combination of the work that I put in, and a lot of it is the man upstairs, man, just being blessed and having a body build that can sustain a season like that.
Man, when you came into the league, right, and you're there now for a couple of years, man. What was I'm always interested to hear, man. Was there a lot of trash talking going on, and like who was someone that you looked up to that when you got to the league, you're just like, okay, yeah.
Man, it is some trash talk. That's the thing about baseball, man. It's not as face to face as basketball or football. Basketball, football, you face to face with dudes and you talking the whole game.
Yeah.
As a kid, we grew up like that. We grew up talking the whole game, and that's what made you better. It
Yeah.
separated the weak from the strong, because either the trash talking was gonna make you elevate your game, or it was gonna make you drop. Either you're gonna sink or you're gonna swim.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like for me, someone telling me what I can't do and someone talking trash always elevated my game. It always
Mm-hmm.
made me be like, okay, you gonna tell me what I can't do? Watch.
Yeah.
Just like my grandma used to say, don't wake a sleeping dog. Let the dog sleep. Once you wake a sleeping dog, now the dog is ready to go.
Dog is
Um,
ready. Yeah.
and we had some trash talking, especially back in those days. And I feel like the game was a little different. It was a lot of trash talking, actually. You hear the people chirping from the dugouts, people ready to fight a lot quicker. And when I came up, Eric Gagne took me under his wings. He was the man in LA. I mean, he was when he was the dude. When as soon as he they call his name in the bullpen before they even stand up, everybody running over to watch him just to go throw, warm up to come in the game. I mean, the things he was doing were incredible, and he took me under his wings and showed me the ropes and showed me the way, how to be a professional and what not to do in a game, and come to the field early and don't say nothing, just chill and stay under the radar. But that don't mean you have to be a hermit. Just stay even keel.
Man, I think that's great advice, man, because, as young athletes listening to this, especially in different professions, different fields, the one thing that you want to do is you want to go and make a name for yourself right away. You know what I'm saying? But I think from the way that you grew up and the way that you were raised, you just said, you were ready to be adaptable and you took advice from a big dog who've been doing it way longer than you.
Right.
But to this point, as your career went on, man, you were able to do some things that not a lot of people are able to do. I want to talk about 2009, 2010, 2011, because those, in basketball, they have the three-peat. You know what I'm saying? You win. To me, that was kind of a three-peat for you in different ways, right? Because in 2009, 2010, 2011, you became an all-star. You threw a no-hitter. And you won a World Series. Like, not a lot of people are able to say they do that.
Right.
What do you remember most about those years? And tell me what was going through your mind during the no-hitter, man, because literally I get a lot of young athletes, baseball players asking me, man, I wonder what that's like. I wonder what that feels like. And you've done it. So walk me a little bit about that, man.
All right. 2009, 2010, 2011. I think a lot of it, my 2009 season it stemmed from 2008. I was just starting to make that transition into evolving into a pitcher instead of a thrower. I was starting to find out who I really am and what I really can do in a game of baseball. Confidence was at an all-time high, and that has a lot to do with it because you can have all the ability in the world. If you don't have the confidence to go with the ability, then, like I know, it won't matter what ability you have if the confidence is not driving the ability. And I think 2009 coming from, we just went to World Series in 2008 in the AL East with the lowest paid team in the division, average age 25, and we beat the Yankees, we beat Boston, to go on into a World Series, which we end up losing to Philly. And to go into 2009 to a Detroit team, that has some pretty good players. You got Miguel Cabrera, you had Justin Verlander, Rick Porcello was a rookie, Curtis Granderson, you had Brandon Ninge, you had Dontrell Woodlands there. So, I mean, we had a nice squad in Detroit. And to come fit in with that group of players, and also know that I'm somewhat at home because I have a lot of family in Detroit. So I feel it was a perfect storm. It was a perfect storm for me going into coming from 2008, where I can continue to succeed and trend forward and trend in the right place with success. And then you end up being an all-star, man, it's crazy how quick things happen in the game. And finish 2009 with a great year. We end up missing the playoffs by one game in probably one of the craziest one-game playoffs I've been in, where we end up losing to Minnesota. So the next year I signed with Arizona. And I start off slow. It started off slow in Arizona. It was kind of a struggle. The teams were good. We weren't really trying to win, but you still just try to make the best of the situation. You try to keep your mind strong, and end up throwing a no-hitter and against Tampa Bay, against an old team.
Yeah,
that's what made it more crazy. 149 pitches, which is
149.
probably
Holy.
the most pitches to date in a no-hitter, probably in to date, especially in a no-hitter. But man, 8 walks.
So were you consciously aware of what was happening?
You know what? I didn't know. I had so many walks because the game started off so erratic. I didn't know that I had a no-hitter going into like the 7th inning. And everybody was so bent out on a pitch count and the walks in the game. I mean, we ended up winning 1-0. And 7th inning, I knew it was a no-hitter. Probably the most unorthodox no-hitter it is because, normally the superstition is don't talk to the pitcher during a no-hitter. But I talked the whole game.
Yeah.
I was talking to people the whole game. And I remember taking the mound the 9th inning, and I just said to myself, you know what? If it's meant to be, it's going to happen. And those were my exact words. If it's meant to be, it'll happen. Let's go. So I didn't put any added pressure on myself. I just left it in the hands of destiny. If it was destined to be, then I was going to throw it and got out of it, man. And to this day, it's one thing they can't take it away. It's a no-hitter in that fashion. Then go on to St. Louis in 2011. Well, actually, I got traded middle of the season to Chicago White Sox. And then from the White Sox, I went to St. Louis in the middle of the season. And numerically, we weren't even supposed to be in the playoffs in St. Louis. We ended up putting together a crazy run and getting to the World Series and playing Texas in a battle. I mean, they had us down going into Game 6. They needed Game 6 to win, and we're going home. And David Freese hit a 2-out, 3. I want to say 3-2 count, 2 out. Hit a ball to right field, triple, and we tie the game. And we come back. They get a run. We tie it again, and we end up winning that game. And after that, man, we went into Game 7 knowing we're gonna win the World Series. We had deflated Texas, and lo and behold, we came out and we won that game, won the World Series, and last man standing on the field, man. That's what we play for. You can't imagine that.
What'd that feel like, man? Like your first initial thought?
You know what? It's pandemonium. Pandemonium mixed with excitement, mixed with it's like you turn into a little kid again. That's the best feeling, man. The smiles on everyone's faces is it's what the game is really about, because everyone had their little kid moment. I mean, you have dudes out there crying, dudes that's been playing. Rafael Fakal, who I grew up watching with the Braves, been to the playoffs numerous times, never been to a World Series, and he wins a World Series. You got guys out there crying. And, I mean, it brings out the joy and it brings out the little kid in everyone when you win that World Series, just the screaming and the throwing the gloves in the air. It's like the Little League World Series when they throw the gloves in the air. I mean, that's the best way to describe it, man. It's like, it's so surreal. It's like being a little kid on the field again, man, and having the world watch you be the last man standing on the field.
Man, I always, people always ask me, what did it feel like the week or the 2 weeks after, when I got the medal, what was that like? So what, man, after you undressed, you got ready, man, who was the first call, man? Who was the last call?
Man, congrats on that medal too. Yeah, they don't know you a beast over there. They don't know young bull over there.
I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah. Man, the texts and calls, they were coming. So I kind of weeded through, talked to the family, talked to my parents were there. So I had the immediate family right there with me. So I didn't have to really make any calls, but calling cousins, you calling friends, you got group text. So we're on a group text with all the friends and family, everyone saying congrats. You have the scouts calling that drafted you. Man, that's a lot of calls, but that feeling right there, boy, oof, that's what you put all the preparation. That's what we put all the blood, sweat, and tears that we train for. We put it in perspective for those moments like that.
There's a lot of sacrifices that you had to make, man. You got to sacrifice time. You got to sacrifice, your body sometimes. And so when you reach the pinnacle, it feels that much better. But, I think sometimes people who aren't in the athletic field kind of forget the human aspect of it, right? Because when you reach this pinnacle and you get this title and you have the accolades, you're just like, man, what kind is what next? And when you got the World Series, you threw a no-hitter the year before, you became an all-star. Man, now there's a lot of pressure on Edwin Jackson. You know what I'm saying? So like, how do you handle when life, hits you and you got to play these games and you don't feel like being there? How you handle when the media is telling you one thing and they're just, coming at you? Like, how do you keep your composure and focus on the game?
I think the biggest thing that helped me was coming up at a young age in a market like LA, where the media is tough. It's a real city, big market city. Keeping composure, being a professional. Those are things you have to understand. Once you get to a certain level, those are things that comes with the job. Like that's a part of the job, being a professional, talking to people when you don't want to talk, answering the questions after you had a bad game, that you don't want to answer. That's part of being accountable.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like a lot of people not accountable. I've never been one to run away from adversity. We play a game that failure is greatness. You get as a batter, you hit 3 out of 10 balls and you succeed. But 3 out of 10, you're gonna feel like you're failing. We play a game where, you are going to fail, and I feel like the quicker people can realize that and not run from adversity and be accountable, and you man up. A lot of people have to man up. It's easy to point the finger at someone, but I feel like once you take on that title as a professional, then you take on everything that comes with it. And I have to stress that every day to a lot of people in the game that, you're not going to always hear everything you don't want to hear. You're not going to always have to answer the questions that you want to answer. There's going to be a lot of stuff that you don't want to deal with, but hey, that's what you're a professional for. If you don't like it, then don't be a professional. That's what happens when you have to realize we're at the top level of anything. We're at the highest level you can get.
Yeah.
It comes with it.
Man, at this point in your career, because you're still kicking, you're still moving, you're still grooving, you know what I'm saying? And, sometimes society will say, look, man, you reach this age or you've done this, and they kind of put you inside of a box without even knowing what your day-to-day is like. At this stage in your career, man, what are you trying to prove to yourself? what's motivating you to continue to get back up after you don't got nothing to prove, man? Like, like you've done it all.
Nothing to prove, man. This straight for the love, man. You know, I tell my wife, she asks me every day, how long you gonna play? Like, you know what? I don't really have an answer to it. My body will tell me, my mind will tell me when it starts feeling like a job and it stops feeling like fun, then, you know, I'll hang it up. But as long as I can keep people guessing my age sometimes here and there, then I'll continue to play, man. Not really out trying to prove anything to anyone. I just want to stop on my own terms, you know. I just want to stop when my body tells me, okay, it's time to hang it up. And
Yeah.
right now, I still love to compete, man. It's someone you say, okay, we facing Mike Trout, are we facing, you know, Anthony Rendon, are we facing Justin Upton, are we facing Miguel Cabrera, the top hitters in the game? It's like, all right, you want that challenge. You know, you want that challenge. And if you don't want it, then you're probably not gonna last too long. But like you said, you wanna run against the fastest in the world. You want to. That's what you want. You know what I'm saying? And everybody's chasing the fastest in the world. So to be the best, you gotta wanna battle against the best. Head up. You can't run from them.
Man, tell me, we're coming on the last couple questions here, man. Tell me what's one of your favorite moments when you were in the league, man, like one of those stories that, you know, always sticks with you, whether it was a good thing or whether it was a bad thing, you know.
Man,
Tell me one of those, man.
I had a player that I played with when I was in LA. And this is when I was young, and I was like, dang, this is what the league is like. And this was back in the day, so it was a different era of baseball. Middle of a game, sitting on the bench, and we're in San Francisco. And he looked at me like, I'll be back, young buck. You know, and I'm like, all right, we're talking baseball. I come back, we leave for about 10 minutes, come back, 10 grand in his pocket, a wad. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I don't know what he wanted to sign something. Maybe he signed something for someone that got it. But I'm like, this dude, I think he signed something, either a bat or a ball for someone. I'm like, man, I'm like, at the time, this is the most money I ever seen in one time cash. And I'm like, man, this is the league middle of the game. You can just go sign something, come back with 10 grand in your pocket. And I'm like, dang.
That's wild.
I'm fresh 20. I'm fresh 20. I'm like, middle of the game. He just went and signed something, got 10 racks. I'm like, man, I was blown. I was blown.
That's crazy.
I think at the moment was facing Barry Bonds. Facing Barry Bonds my first year. I mean, that was the man, the myth, the legend. That's Barry Bonds. Getting a chance to face him, that's one for the record books. That, you know,
tell me about that, man. What was that like, man? Because, man, when I started hearing about baseball, man, I was one of the guys I started hearing about. And and the more that I was watching, it seems like every pitcher who was pitching at Double B is getting hit out the park.
Either they walking him or he's hitting a home run.
Was there a presence about him, man?
Oh man, he right up on the plate. And the night before, I just seen him hit 99 inside out the park. I'm like, man, that was 99, and he just hit that like it was 80. I'm like, man, all right. So we go facing him. At this point, I was still early, so I didn't really have time to be nervous because everything's still moving so fast. But I was like, what I got to lose? I got nothing to lose. Worst case, he hit a home run, and he's supposed to. You know what I'm saying? So the first AB, I think I hit him. I got 2 strikes on him, and I hit him in that arm guard that he wears. So he got on the first. The second AB, they put an intentional walk. And the third AB, I struck him out. But and next day he came out and gave me a hat salute. You know, it's saying like, hey, I appreciate you coming at me. But I was coming at him. I think he missed it on purpose too, because it was right down at him. I'm like, man, you missed that on purpose. And you probably don't remember that AB, but I think he missed it on purpose just because I was coming at him. I wasn't running from him.
That's what I'm talking about, bro, man. We could talk about these stories all day, man.
Yeah, it was a beast in the box, though. Oof. Right up on the plate, too. Like, I dare you to throw it inside.
Yeah. Man, we could talk about this all day, man. I want to get into these last 2 questions, man. You know, it's just fun questions, man. You at home right now with the kids. The wife is there, man. What's a snack EJ has to have at the crib?
Man, the snack. That's a good question. Right now, right now we've been running through trail mix. I'm not sure how I feel like day to day it changes, but right now it's been trail mix, man. Especially not being able to go to the gym like I want to. I want to snack on something every day, so I'm like, I need to find a healthy snack, something healthy that I can just run through every day and not worry about loading up, getting big. But
Yeah.
right now it's been trail mix. Any other time might be cinnamon roll or something like that, but can't hit that gym like we want to. So I've been running through some trail mix.
See, that's the professionalism, even in quarantine. That's what I'm talking about, man.
It's hard. It's tough.
Man, so last question, man, you've like I said, bro, I got so much respect for you because of how you go about your life. Like, when I ask people, or even when I watch interviews, man, I've never met someone who has something bad to say about, Edwin Jackson. It's always on some love. And, you're a person that, your kids may not see it right now, but as they get older, they'll be like, man, like, because sometimes when you see someone over and over again, you don't really know what's in front of you.
Yeah.
But throughout your whole career, everything you've been able to build, everything that you stand for, man, what, if there was one word to describe you, what would that one word be?
If one word to describe me, respectable.
Man, that's spot on. Hey, that's spot on. Man, I appreciate you taking the time, bro. Like, man, you're one dude that I said, I wanted to make sure that I get on the podcast, man, because you not only have been able to accomplish a bunch of great things, man, but you are who you say you are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to have anybody on here who aren't, themselves, or
Right.
you've never put on a show with me. It's always been love. You always told me straight up, and you never shy away from any question that I have or conversation, man. But, where can people find you, man? Where can people keep up with you, man?
Man, you can find me if you want to go to Twitter. It's ejack36. I'm pretty sure. Instagram at ejack36, EJACK36. Well, Twitter is just Edwin Jackson. Twitter, you can just type in Edwin Jackson. It should be only one with a blue check. I got a couple of fake accounts out there. A couple of fake accounts. But I know that the IG is at ejack36. And you can find me, man. And you always know it's all love, man. I love coming on here talking with you, man. The respect is mutual that we have for each other, man. We'd have some long days talking in the gym. And obviously, we do different sports, but the athleticism and the way we compete is all at the same level, man. So, that respect, like you say, respect is given and is received as well. And you earn all my respect, bro. It's nothing but love for you.
I appreciate you, man. It's always love from my end, man. Hey, EJ, though, man, we'll talk, bro.
All right, my boy, take it easy.
Yeah.